Are you familiar with the theory that the elite are reptilian? So, but I mean, what's going on with this reptilian thing? Where's this theory really coming from? I mean,
it's coming from the demonic presences, and the fact that when they manifest in a reptilian, sometimes kind of shape.
So the demons manifest themselves in reptilian types of shapes.
Yeah.
You knew that sooner or later we would get around to the reptiles, right?
Right.
How did this reptile connection come into your work, and why has it been the focus of so much attention?
Well, for two reasons, the focus of attention. One, it is so bizarre to condition reality, and two, on some subconscious level, a lot of people resonate with it because they have had experience of it. They may not remember that, but because we're multidimensional consciousness and we've experienced many things on a subconscious level, people resonate with it because they've had experience of it. They know it's true, but they can't remember why. A number of people have said to me, what you say about this stuff, it should be ridiculous, but I just feel that there's something in it, and this is what I'm talking about. How it came into my work is like everything else comes into my work. It was where the information went. Back in about 97, I think it was, 97, 98, when I was preparing a book called The Biggest Secret, I suddenly, again, we're back to the Green Party story in so many ways, in the way my life works. I was in Arizona, first of all, and I was talking and researching around there and what have you, and suddenly in a period of about, 2 weeks, I met 12 separate people, first of all in Arizona and then in other parts of the world, up in California and other places, who told me basically the same story, that they had seen people, often in positions of power, but not always, change in front of their eyes from a human to a reptilian figure. And that, this was in their conscious awareness. Now, when you get into what we've been talking about the nature of reality, and interestingly, I've been reading in the last few days that when something comes in through your eyes, it doesn't go directly to the optic nerve, it goes to your brain and then the optic nerve. And the brain, apparently, according to experiments scientists have done, takes 50% of what goes in out, edits it. So, I mean, what are we looking at?
What are we actually seeing, right?
But you do start to see, when you're dealing with holograms and holographic illusions, how easy it is, how absolutely easy it is for one holographic form to fuse into another one, or for one holographic form, a reptilian, to be hidden behind another one, i.e. human. And what happened, Larry, is it was quite simply the power of numbers, because from that period I just talked about 2 weeks, I've met hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people all over the world from every walk of life you could imagine who have seen this phenomenon, and people that I talked about who've been taking part in Illuminati human sacrifice rituals and blood drinking rituals, which they're really into. And by the way, I could just say quickly when I finish this point about one aspect of why they do that. But they've said that they've seen people often in these rituals actually turn into a reptilian humanoid form. And funnily enough, while I'm in this process of gathering this information, but I'm not telling anyone else what I'm gathering, Biggest Secret hasn't come out yet, I was talking to a lady who was head of an American organization called Mothers Against Ritual Abuse, which is trying to help children who are ritually abused in these satanic rituals. And I hadn't spoken to her about anything, I was just talking to her about, what she knew about what went on and who was doing it. And suddenly she says, "I wonder you can help me." She said, "A lot of my clients have said that they've seen participants in these rituals turn into reptiles. Are these people dressing up? Have you any idea what this could be?" And so this constant theme came through. And then I started meeting insiders, people who work for the Illuminati at some level, and are now rejecting it. And they said, absolutely, these guys are not human, they're reptilians. Well, with this new insight, because it's a journey for all of us, I realized that the reptilians, while they are the next step back from the human manipulation, they too are projections, they too are sentient programs, at least a different kind. And in the end, the governor is the fabric of the matrix that we're living in, fear. You know, and we are controlled by fear, and we therefore create fear, which empowers the fear that's controlling us. It's just a cycle we need to break. And so the reptilian thing became massive. And I for instance, have met people, one of them in Canada, who is a power-dressing businesswoman. Certainly not someone you would find in Glastonbury or Sedona. Very much in this world. And she came to a talk I did in Canada, and came up to me afterwards and said, I'd like to talk to you. And I met her a couple of days later, and she told me this story. She said that, first of all, she had a relationship with a guy who was Portuguese, and she went to live with him in Portugal and was kept as a virtual prisoner. And she said that this man was like evil, in her words, and so ritualistic that he would only have his clothes washed on the same date every month. And one of the things about the Illuminati and this whole network of manipulation is their obsession with ritualistic behavior.
And what do you think that's all about?
It's to do with the reptilian brain. So we all have a reptilian aspect to the brain, the R complex.
Right.
And when you look at conventional science, I'm talking about, the way that they list the attributes and the characteristics of the reptilian brain, one of them is an obsession with ritualistic behavior. Also, interestingly, the reptilian brain, like the reptile species, communicates through images, not words.
Right.
And as my books have pointed out, and others have too, the Illuminati are absolutely obsessed with symbolism and images. They use them all the time. Anyway, what this lady said was that this Portuguese guy she lived with, who treated her in this way, used to shapeshift into a reptilian, and that she had to escape from him in the end. And she came back to Canada and had this relationship with another guy who she said had a dark side and realized it, but was trying to handle it. And they went back to her apartment one night. She said, and I just bought the biggest secret, because the reptilian thing in it, you know, because that's when I first introduced it in that book.
Sure.
And just above the bed in her bedroom was a shelf, she said, and on the shelf, lying on its side rather than in a row with the rest, was the biggest secret. She said when the guy walked in the bedroom with me, she said he just went absolutely crazy and started shouting at me that what am I reading this rubbish for? You know, throw that away, it's nonsense and all that stuff. And she said, well, what happened then? She told him to calm down, all that stuff, and they started having sex. And suddenly he became very, very violent and very, very angry. And she said, I had my hand on the back of his spine. She said, I know you'll think I'm mad, as if I would think that, you know. She said, but I felt this force pushing against my hand. She said, and I looked over his shoulder, and he was sprouting a tail. That was what pushing against my hand. She said, and I threw him off and realized that he was manifesting as a reptile. And when she threw him off and screamed, he kind of shifted and morphed back to human. Left the house, she's never seen him again. And you know, people think, well, that's fantastic. Well, when you get into the holographic thing, well, no, it's not. But also, there are people in the world today with tails. They call them in the West caudal appendages. When a baby is born with one, they just whip them off at birth, and that's the end of it. But in other parts of the world where they don't have access to that medical treatment, there are still people with tails, and all it is a code in the DNA which should have closed at this point in the hologram's evolution, if you like, opens for some reason, and therefore it manifests that characteristic. And if you have a more fluid ability to do that, then you can just shift these different codes, different programs of the hologram, and you can be whatever you want. Interestingly, of course, lots of people listening to this program will have come across this. When people have out-of-body experiences or near-death experiences or go into altered states of consciousness like I did with the ayahuasca and what have you, that you are actually without a body. And you can manifest how you like, merely by thinking it.
Right.
You know, I've just been reading accounts in the last few days of people who've had out-of-body experiences, and they've found themselves floating in this realm in a naked state, and from their own thought, oh, I'm naked, I don't like this. Clothes have manifested on their form,